one of the deadliest infectious diseases in low-income countries, even in Los Angeles County. In fact, there are diseases now manifesting in Los Angeles that you only have in third world countries where there's absolute abject poverty and no sanitation. This is downtown Los Angeles. In fact, in my new film, you'll see 61 straight streets, every single block on both sides, nothing but tents, defecation, hypodermic needles, people with mental problems, and people who at one time had a living standard and had the house and their apartment, and now they're here. And just throwing a pot of money, $1 billion, doesn't change that. Yes, there have been some houses. They've rehabilitated some housing projects for about 4,000 or 5,000. But in any given night, minimally, you've got about 60,000 homeless people just in Los Angeles. And that's the minimum number. So at the rate they're going and the rate they're spending money, they're never going to do anything. So I'm just going to take an aside for a moment and give a few suggestions. Why not think of it differently? First, don't put all homelessness together. It would be wrong. Break it into different categories, because only by breaking into categories can you see what are the actual underlying problems and how can I help these people to get out of homelessness. You have to deal with those who had debt that they could not pay for whatever reason, a mortgage that was underwater, they lost their home, they were foreclosed on. But also you have to look at drug addiction. And drug addiction coming from poverty when they went on the streets, and drug addiction preceding going on the streets. You have to look at mental conditions. Clearly, there are individuals who are not mentally competent, cannot take care of themselves. So why would you put the police in a position with no training whatsoever to handle people with mental problems? Do you remember a few years ago there was a guy in Brooklyn who was naked out on the little roof above his steps, and the police came and shot him, killed him? You don't shoot an unarmed naked person. That person represents, of course, they would have all gotten up because their union, of course, is going to come forward and say, we feel threatened. Then stop being a cop if you feel threatened. You've got body armor on, you've got tasers, you've got high caliber weapons, you've got batons, you've got backup, you've got radios, you're shielded, you have hoods, you have gloves, you have boots. You're dressed as if you're going into an Afghan village with the Taliban. And you're up against a guy with a knife. Have you ever heard shooting someone in the leg? But non-fatal shot. Why is every shot a fatal shot, a kill shot? Wow. It's just appalling. So these are the first line. This is what they call the tip of the spear. You don't send the police in to police in these areas, because this is not a drug problem. It's not just a mental illness problem. It's not just an abject poverty problem. It is a societal problem. And society helped cause this because it was society that stood back and allowed predatory capitalism to create and exploit liar's loans for homes and giving people credit cards who they knew from their credit history and their savings they could not pay it back. There's 100 million Americans that could not come up with $1,500 in 30 days. So why do these 100 million people have credit cards that if they miss a payment, the interest goes from 18% to up around 48%? If they keep missing it or only give partial payments or missed payments, it can go up even higher. And therefore, they're going to pay back far more than what they ever borrowed in the first place or purchased in the first place. That's a societal problem where you're knowingly putting people in a premeditated position to profit off other people's losses. You're exploiting them. That's called vulture capitalism. That's the singer who's on the cabinet. That's the people who love it when there's a country that defaults on their loans, loves it when there's a hurricane in Puerto Rico, because they're going to exploit that country in its hour of need. Those are the people you put into a cabinet. Whoa. Those are the people that you allow to be policymakers. And Where were the people of Los Angeles when this was starting? I used to go to Los Angeles a lot because I used to appear on the ABC show out there with Regis Philbin a lot, and I would walk down the streets. I loved walking down all the old streets, looking at unique stores, one store with old antique film posters, go in and browse them. All that area now is just ghettoed, and it goes out of the town and down towards Malibu. So you have green zones. Malibu's a green zone. They don't allow any of that. Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Westwood. They're different, all down the same stupid little mountain, ending with the Griffin Park and the observatory up there. Great observatory, if you've never been there. I used to meditate just going there at night when it was quiet, nobody was around. And I would just sit out there remembering the movie Rebel Without a Cause with James Dean, the final scenes. And I would just sit there and look out at all the twinkling lights over the city. It was just magical. In any case, everywhere you look now, you see tents or cardboard boxes. So this is not just about the persons on the street. Pull back far enough and see how did they get there and what role did the rest of us play, either in omission or commission. So what could be a solution? I'll give you a simple one. Occam's razor. Take a look at what's really the truth and how easy and quickly you can get to it. Never confuse the complexity of a problem with the simplicity of its solution. Never. And we do just the opposite. No matter how simple a solution is, we make it extraordinarily complicated to give ourselves an excuse why we can't do it today or maybe ever, like global warming. So here's what we do. I've done a model of this, and I'm happy to work with anyone, city planners, anyone. And I'll show you where it works. First and foremost, the city and the state and the federal government owns large tracts of land just outside of Los Angeles. Take a tract of land, even a beautiful tract, overlooking the ocean, and there you build 3 different large compounds, and you build them nicely. First, you use local labor. You use local contractors, subcontractors, electricians, masons, plumbers, glazers. You use the people who could use the work. That'll put a lot of people to work. Secondly, you get the oversight by community leaders and local experts like local builders and architects. You keep the developers out of the picture, and you keep politicians who would otherwise make sure that an uncle on someone associated with them would get a contract. You keep these parasites out. Now, in these you build them large enough to accommodate 100,000 people. You give them, based upon the compound, families, single units, and even senior citizen units, because there are going to be special needs. In each unit, you have a security. You have a nonviolent, unarmed security team that is able to deal with arguments and fights, and so that at least people know their standards. You cannot take the mindset from the street into this because you'll just destroy it. You'll ghettoize it, and it's been done too many times. There has to be a transition, and people have to be prepared for this transition. There's a clinic in every one of these. There's the psychological clinic offering humanistic, not pharmaceutical approaches to depression, anxiety, etc. You help people deal with their problems. One unit is reserved just one of these buildings, and you make it nice. You make it look like, you could do it like a Mediterranean village, where you can do it in steps down, so you can accommodate people and still maintain a beautiful aesthetic. Something would look like a gorgeous gated community, but it's not. It's for the poor. It's not a reversal of roles, where the poor actually get to live in a nice environment. You have community gardens, where a requirement, you cannot live here unless you're going to work in the garden. It's like a co-op. You have to contribute something. You're not just going to be a deadbeat who has failed at something in life and bring your soul here and say, feed me, clothe me, help me. That doesn't work in today's world. If you're a child, a young person, yes. If you're a senior citizen, incapacitated, yes. If you're mental problems, yes. Then you need 100% help. But we have to have people who also realize they're given a second chance of life, There's going to be schooling for people, career schooling, trade schooling. They're going to learn trades other than their own because maybe they stuck too long in the same career that no longer is there. So there's not going to be work, whether they're living at home or not. There's not going to be work. So you have career counselors in schools and classes that are free that people take every day to process the next step in their life. You have a health clinic for them so that if they have illnesses, they're treated. Gangrene is common, diabetes is common, malnutrition is common, heavy metal toxicity, environmental sensitivity is common, septicemia is rampant, especially with drug addicts. And you bring in, and I can provide you, because I was head of addiction control at Trafalgar Hospital for a long time, and my program worked better than any other that we had in the city, including the methadone clinics. So you can get people off the drugs without giving them another drug like methadone. You can clean them up. You got the counseling, the careerists. You've got a community kitchen where people can go to each day and have healthy meals cooked. In fact, it would actually be preferable to begin with, because most people are living off junk food, and junk food itself is a toxicant to the body and the mind. Now, as you have community gardens and you have sports that people go out if they want to play tennis, they want to shoot some basketball, they want to kick some soccer balls, they'll can do that. They'll have clean rooms to sleep in. They'll have a shower, they'll have bed, they'll have access to the internet. But they've got to contribute. They've got to have so many hours a day, they must take classes, they must be preparing themselves for the next step in life. So when they commit themselves to giving back to the gift they've been given by the citizens, then it's an honest and honorable exchange. We're giving you a chance. We're not judging you. We're not judging how you got here, why you're drug addicted. We're going to get you healthy in body, mind, and spirit so you can re-enter society, and you give them a reasonable period of time to do that, a year to 2 years. So in a year to 2 years, you can get someone up, and you can get them on their feet, you can help them. Now you put satellite cities like this around the United States, and these are much less expensive to build, much less expensive to maintain, and they're also become self-maintaining because you can have arts and crafts centers. You can have many of the people who are homeless begin to share their unique talents, and you can have crafts fairs to bring in income. You can have community gardens that help pay for a lot of their food. You have sprout houses, microgreens, dehydrated freezing foods, and you can have a proper nutritionist, a holistic nutritionist dietitian who can select the foods that are brought in and prepare the meals that are actually enhancing people's well-being. And so with the psychological counseling that's humanistic, with the medical help that is holistic, with the sociologist and a psychoanalyst who are helping a person deal with life issues and giving them a safe place where they're not going to be worrying about their stuff being stolen or they're being arrested by the police, then you give them a chance. That's all you can do is give them a chance. What they do with that is up to them. Some will fail. Some will succeed. And at least they know that society cared enough about me to give me a second chance. Isn't that a better way than just throwing money into a few apartments downtown and trying to put in another toilet? In Los Angeles, I filmed, there's one toilet for 3,000 homeless people. Good luck trying to use that toilet. When it's not overflowing and stopped up, there's a long line. So now, that's just a non-essential Band-Aid. That's a typical political solution. That would be something I would expect coming out of a Pacifica, a local board meeting where it's not a meeting to help anyone. It's gladiators arming up and just assaulting each other and using words as if they were armor. What a ridiculous over-democratization with no object of helping anybody, the object of power. And that's what you have in a lot of these town councils. So, this has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with reestablishing a humanistic value to a sentient being. And this you could do, everything I just mentioned you could do with that same $1 billion a year. Now you got permanent housing for 100,000 people. So that's, and the land can be donated. and the government and corporations can be contributing and get a 2-to-1 tax write-off. That reminds me, the dumbest thing in the world is the tax system. It couldn't be any dumber. First of all, it should be abolished entirely. Our IRS should be abolished entirely. The Federal Reserve should certainly be abolished, is totally correct. But what you should have is one corporate tax for individuals or their own limited liability corporations, and major corporations like Facebook. Everyone should have to pay mandated, no exceptions, no reductions and deductions, 20% of the total income. That's it, 20%. That's money we do not get now because none of the rich people or rich corporations pay any taxes whatsoever in most cases. So this way, we'd have a constant flow. But for these special and unique homeless projects, I wouldn't call them a homeless project, I would call it a starting over project, new beginnings. You give us $1 and you get to death 2 on your personal income tax. But think of the citizens would love that. At least we know that the money will be going into helping people build something that will be sustainable instead of the military industrial complex getting 56 to 58 cents out of every dollar that we spend in taxes. At least those who spend money in taxes. So that is what I would suggest. That's just the beginning. I have all kinds of other ideas on that. And to see if it's going to work, I'm starting one myself. We're breaking ground in about 2 months. It'll be done in 4 months. You heard me right. 4 months, the entire project will be finished from beginning to end. It won't be with a lot of people. I'm doing it as a test to show what is possible. How it can be completely self-sustaining. I won't say more than that. When it's open and it's filled and it's working, and I'm filming the people changing their lives after 6 months, I'll then present that. I'll have a premiere over the internet of a live stream from the location showing you. Same with the Veterans Village. The Veterans Villages, we're actually in the process now of starting to interview veterans to see which ones we believe we can help and who want to help themselves. And I'm also interviewing for sergeant majors. These are the tough guys, no nonsense, dedicated 100% to helping the soldiers around them. These would be a retired sergeant major who would help maintain discipline and focus and camaraderie among the homeless vets. So I'm doing that at the same time. So a whole lot's happening, and you'll hear about it when it's all done.